Hey everyone, I'm so glad you decided to listen to my podcast. I couldn't be more appreciative of all the responses I've been receiving from you guys. So, to waste no time, let's begin episode 4, The Person Left Behind. Welcome back, all. It's week 4, and I'm feeling really good about this episode. I know I say that every time, but this one is just coming from the heart. Trying to be really vulnerable. And I really didn't do as much planning on today's episode because it just hit me, and I really wanted it to be raw and more down to earth. This episode might be triggering to some individuals. We're going to be talking about grief, so just be cautious when listening. If it's bothering you, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you can't listen. So this week we're going to be obviously talking about grief, and this is a touchy subject for many individuals, and this is something that has truly changed my identity. As a senior in high school, I lost my grandma. Some of you might have known her because she was always at every sporting event I did and really just in my life as much as possible. My grandpa was as well. I ended up losing him my sophomore year of college. So I learned so much from her and him, and they both shaped a large portion of my personality. They were the strongest people I've ever had a pleasure of being around, and their passion for their grandkids and their family was just unbeatable. And the passing of them was one of the most difficult times of my life. And to this day, it's still one of the most difficult things I have to deal with. That being said, the purpose of this episode is for me to try to give some advice to someone who might be grieving. Grief is really weird. One second, you might be laughing about the funny things that person did, like just silly videos you might have, and then it's like almost an instant something sparks in your brain and it's like you remember that they're gone and instantly your heart just breaks. And grief is a constant shattering of your heart. Like you feel like you're good and then it hits you and it's almost like all the progress you'd made or how you were feeling that day or what you're up to just instantly goes away. And grief did a lot of things to me, but the one thing it did was it caused me to lose a lot of hope. I was so angry. I didn't understand why they had to leave, and I didn't understand whose fault it was and what I did wrong. And I was so distraught and I was confused and hurt, and I lost my purpose of living for a long time. Grief can make you angry at all the wrong things, sad about the future, and guilty of the past. It is, in my opinion, the strongest emotion one can go through. It's the power to change a chemical balance of your brain. And I'm not just saying that, it's proven science. Grief can cause memory and behavior issues as well as body function and cognitive function. So this can rewire the way you think. And it constantly feels like you're like in a movie. Like your brain is almost convinced you that what you're feeling isn't real. And that's normal. It's your way of kind of protecting yourself. It's your brain's way of saying, listen, we can't think about what's going on right now. We can't function if we know what's going on. So we have to just stop thinking about it. Like we legit have to ignore it. And I know personally, I would constantly tell myself that they were just on a vacation. They'll be back soon. That's what I would tell myself in my brain. And I definitely do not recommend this as it only made it really hard for me to heal. But that was the only thing I could do to keep functioning. It brings a good point to my mind, actually, and that is when you're grieving, people will always tell you how to do it, or they'll say that the way you're grieving is wrong. And to that, I say, literally, fuck you, because you don't get to tell someone how they get to grieve. Every person has to grieve differently. Every person's a different person. Your brain's functioning a different way. We all grieve differently, and there's no protocol for preparing your brain, and there's no way to experience the feeling you feel when you enter that funeral hall or when you say your last goodbye. Sorry. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to tell you that you're doing it wrong. If someone that you know has just lost someone, please do not try to fix it. It's not going to be fixed with a box of chocolates or a hug. The best thing you can do is just be there for them. I don't mean be in their business and never give them alone time. I mean, actually listen to what they need, not what you think they need. No individual is master of grief, which means no one, absolutely no one, gets to judge someone else for expressing their grief in their own way. If someone you know is grieving, don't just support them for that first month when everything's new. Don't just be supportive of them and thinking of them then. Support them in that 2 year, that 6 months, and especially the 1 year mark. The 1 year is absolutely horrible. It's painful. Every year that passes, it's just a reminder that the year went too fast, and it's almost like you feel guilty that you kept living and they didn't. Don't forget about those people. Don't let that person act like they're fine. Don't just let them be like, yeah, I'm good. No, they can feel okay, but just know that it's not true. They're gonna be hurting deep down. So don't just let them act like they're fine. Let them know that they can be vulnerable with you. Everyone who's grieving needs someone that they can go to and just honestly, sometimes it's just be angry with. Like, I remember personally, like, I used to just get really, really angry. And it's like I was almost angry at my grandparents. It's not their fault. It's no one's fault. But I was so angry. I was like, why would you leave us? Like, why would you do this? And it's no one's fault. But grief does weird things to you. It makes you feel so angry and so sad and so upset all the same times. So there are going to be things that are said that aren't nice. And you just have to get over it because they're going to come back and they're going to say sorry for the things they said, but they need to get the anger out of their body. It's hard, and this is a huge thing. As I've gone, past everything, I've realized that it's been really hard for me to almost be happy of the accomplishments I'm making. And it's not because I'm not grateful or I don't feel like I deserve it. It's like I have a hard time being satisfied with the great things that I accomplish when the person who used to share in the joy of my success isn't here. They're not here to tell me they're proud of me. And that is some of the craziest things you'll hear, but it's true. Like, you just feel like the person you want to be there isn't there. And one way that I've been able to actually feel at peace is through angel numbers. If you guys have ever seen my my left leg, it has 444 written on it. And these things I always get asked about. And it might seem far-fetched to most, but my numbers are 444, and it's the biggest comfort I can get from my grandparents now. I'm going to explain it. So when my grandma she had passed, and my grandpa was feeling very sick and not doing well, I started seeing 444s everywhere because I was having a really hard time. Oh my gosh, sorry. I was having a really hard time thinking that he was going to go pretty soon. So I saw fours at gas pumps, door signs, license plates, price tags, and even on the clock. And eventually one day I just was like, I'm seeing these everywhere. Like, I need to look it up. And it said that the number 4, 3 fours together, symbolizes love, support, and guidance from your angels. And I got literal chills. Like, every time I think about it, it's just insane. And it might be stupid to someone else, but those 3 numbers have given me the most confidence that they're okay, that they're looking after me. Jesus, I thought this was going to be better than this. Sorry. And they've shown up every time I need the most guidance. And that right there is exactly what my grandparents would do if they were here. If you're grieving, just remember it's not an overnight process. I've been 3-4 years out of this, and it's still just as hard. When you lose someone who you spent years loving, it is going to take a long time. Maybe the rest of your life to learn to live without them. My advice to anyone who is grieving is let yourself feel every emotion. Be angry, be sad, be happy, be guilty, feel. Don't let others tell you to get over it. That's not their place. You have the right to grieve whenever and however you want. You didn't choose for this to happen, but you get to choose what you do from here on out. If grief taught me one thing, it's to live. Appreciate the people around you. Look for the good in people. Be there when others need it. Be kind. Never assume. We only get to see short snippets of what other people are going through. Don't make assumptions about others until you've taken the time to learn every detail. Every person deserves to be heard and loved. As you go out into the world, you might not be the smartest, funniest, or even prettiest, but the one thing you can be is the kindest person in every room. Thank you.